In 2005, when I was diagnosed with COPD, it was following a heart attack that killed me, actually. I actually died twice, and they shocked me back. I spent 4 days in a coma, and they called my kids in from 500 miles away to make the decision whether to take me off the life support. Well, after 4 days, I woke up and said, I'm going to continue. Well, here I am. 4 years later, my doctor had told me the usual, you're going to be lucky to be alive in 5 years, but I'm going to prove him a big liar. I've had so many wonderful things happen to me since my diagnosis. At first, I went through the stage of feeling sorry for myself and, oh, woe is me, what am I going to do? I lived alone, 500 miles from my kids. So I took it upon myself to decide to move back to Indiana from Georgia, where I was at the time, and rented a U-Haul truck, pulled my car behind it, and moved myself from Georgia to Indiana all alone. Drove the 500 miles, got me a place up here close to the kids, and got involved with the COPD Foundation, made friends that had COPD, got me active in COPD. And I got into pulmonary rehab, which made all the difference in the world. I went from 2 minutes on the treadmill to I was able to do 40 minutes on the treadmill. After 8 weeks in pulmonary rehab, I came to Chicago and walked in a hike for lung health and almost walked a mile. I came real close, but I was so excited that I made that almost a mile. But I think the biggest thing that's made a difference to me was shortly after that walk, I realized that, I can do things on my own. And with the goodness of my oxygen supplier, I embarked on a 19-day trip alone in my car with, like I said, help from the oxygen company, that they had oxygen provided for me at each stop that I was going to make. I drove 3,013 miles in 19 days. I went and saw a granddaughter I hadn't seen in several years. I went to Florida and saw my sister and her husband. I had friends drive across the state from Tampa I hadn't seen in 20 years. I then drove back to Georgia and stayed with some friends that had been an employee of mine at one time. Then I drove to Mississippi and saw another daughter and a granddaughter that I had only seen once in my life when she was at the hospital when I came out of the coma, and that's the only time I had seen her. So that trip was the most thrilling thing for me. I stopped on my trip and visited 4 other COPD patients, one in Florida, one in Tennessee, one in Georgia, and one in Kentucky, and that I'd met online, that I'd never seen face to face, but while I was traveling, I wanted to make sure I got to see them. And like I said, I drove 3,013 miles, had the best 19 days of my life. And if the good Lord had taken me after that, He gave me 19 wonderful days.